The biggest pain point in the marketplace is you get faced with that rejection head on, right? And so you may think you have something that people are going to like or respond or buy, but if folks ain't buying, you don't have a business. Number one rule in business is stay in business. So that's something that hasn't changed. I'm always seeking at least 2 mentors. Someone that, is either going to be an advocate for me and open up doors that maybe I can't get into. Sure. And then another mentor that just straight has a skill set that I lack.
Welcome to Catch the Moment podcast. I am your host, David Tyree.
It is caught by Tyree. That's a great catch by David Tyree. This ball's thrown and Tyree just goes up for it like a basketball player.
Welcome to Catch the Moment podcast. It's your boy David Tyree. Super excited about this week's episode. We have an amazing guest. As always, get you along the way to your next journey, pain point, and destination. Today I'm here with a friend, a dynamic professional CFO. Oh, crazy pedigree, my friend Rashidah Billups. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
You look lovely.
Thank you. This lovely summer heat got us glistening.
Hair is popping, autumn flow, smile wide as the New Jersey State Interstate 4-5 lanes. I love it. Everything well?
Everything's well.
Okay. Now we do this as a colloquialism, right? We like to start this off. This is Catch the Moment podcast. I'm known for a catch. So I have to ask you, not assuming that you're a sports fan, but where were you the first time you ever saw the helmet catch?
Oh, my gosh.
Do you remember any story, whatever you got for me?
So you met my mom. And I have to say, she's probably your biggest fan. Like, I was never a sports person, but I grew up in a Giants household. Like, labels, logos, everything over the house,
she
in the
got
room.
Swag all over.
Swag everywhere, pins, and she's a nurse. So pins, uniform, scrubs. So when the catch happened, my phone was getting lit up. And I'm like, I'm on my way to the Super Bowl party, running late. Like, no, you didn't see it, you missed it. And so that's all I could hear about. So
that's crazy.
And it's
Big
amazing.
Shout, Mom.
Yes. So I was on the phone with my mother on my way to go see her so she can tell me how amazing it was.
That's fantastic. Well, Mom, we know how we do. You know what I'm saying? You know how we do. But in light of that, that's what we want to get to, man. Like, obviously you've had a dynamic professional career in fintech, wealth advisor, and I know personally of your pedigree. So at this stage, you're a seasoned mom. I know a lot of your stories, so I'm trying to figure out for you at this stage, what would you say is your defining moment? Like when you think about some of the journey along the way and some of the, and this is life, whatever you want it to be. What could you say is your defining moment?
Well, I think overall, everything that I've been through and have done in life, personal, professionally, has all led up to the moment where I am today. And I feel that, it's been a pivotal moment, especially this summer. I'm a summer baby, just turned 40 years old.
Let's go.
Is, monumental, but also where I am in life and professionally, it is a moment of transformation for me personally and professionally. And it's a great moment. So there are a lot of things I'm looking forward to. There are a lot of new launches that have happened in my business. There are a lot of new things and new leaves that are turned over in my personal life. So I think this has just been a summer of real transformation for me overall.
Ooh, I could just see the butterfly blossoming. My sister, one of my sisters, but I have an older sister, and she's gonna write this book that says, she has this wonderful statement, late blossoms still bloom, right? So I know, I think, a late, some of us, we just blossom at a different time. I know you're performance driven.
Yes, I am.
You're trying to get.
We're gonna hit those goals, okay? Results driven, numbers.
Results driven. So I know Rashidah Billups, and so in relation to that, like, what is when you think about this journey as you're stated to that, what's different today about what your success maybe looked like 10 years ago? Because, we'll get into some of the pedigree. You're just so well-rounded, educated, and proven results on behalf of clients. But what's different today as opposed to 10 years ago, and what success looked like?
So I think there are things that are different, but there are things that are also the same.
Okay.
So the things that are the same is mentorship You always have to find a mentor. So I always sought out someone that had the success I was looking for. If I liked the person or didn't like him, it didn't matter. You have something that I want, and I made that known, and I need you to help me with that.
So even if you didn't like them?
Even if I didn't like them.
Okay, so give me one example of how that worked out for you, right? Like, because this is something where people resist. People resist differences like crazy. So, give us one, because I think this is a powerful, life-changing paradigm, because you know what? They say, there's jerks everywhere, right?
Oh,
but some jerks are really highly productive.
Some jerks are highly productive and performing and winning, okay? You can be a jerk, but you can still mentor me, and it's okay.
I love that.
So that's something that I think I adopted early on, just being in a family of leaders and being in a culture, especially when you're raised in corporate and raised in banking. Banking was very old school in the mentality, but also I was being raised in an industry that was just being developed, which is fintech. So I came in with a technology operations mindset into a place of traditional Wall Street bankers. So I have to learn what they have, because they have the resources, right? They have the know-how, but also I'm here to actually be a change agent to help them transform to go to the next place, but I also have to gain their trust. And so I have to submit in some ways, but then once that relationship is built, now I can offer my knowledge and resources. So that's something that hasn't changed. I'm always seeking at least 2 mentors, someone that, is either going to be an advocate for me and open up doors that maybe I can't get into. And then another mentor that just straight has a skill set that I lack. And, the differences are going to be found in those jerks and the people that you naturally don't get along with. It's probably because what they have is what you need. So you got to get over yourself and get to, if you're serious about getting your goals done, then that's what it's about.
Oh my goodness. You perfectly scripted for Catch the Moment podcast, because you just talked about 2 very specific detail in relation to what you're looking for. I said this is very difficult to find what you desire if you don't know what you're looking for. And so it sounds like there's been a lot of intent. So talk to me, when you talk about fintech, it's been the buzzword for 5 to 10 years. Obviously it's well evolved now at this stage, but where does your technology background go from? Most people might not really catch it because of what you've been doing in banking.
Exactly. Most people, they see me as a finance professional, which I am, but I never desired to be in finance. I went to school because I wanted to be a woman in tech, and I was building computers from scratch since 9th grade. And
Crazy.
So I won world competitions, coming in 6th place, after Russia and Ukraine, doing things with community problem solving all throughout high school, went to college 2-3 times before graduating. And so I had already done so much with technology. And then in my last year of college, I started to get recruiting calls from banks. And I'm like, why are these banks calling me? Like, I already have a job. I'm already at a leadership position at 21 years old. And I made a deal with this one recruiter. I mean, Jennifer, if you're listening, God bless you, because it's because of you that put me on this path, And she just kept calling me. And I'm like, listen, that resume online was actually a part of a final project for college, because the online resume systems just started to be created, like monster.com.
Sure.
So we had to learn how to put a resume online, So that was a project, but I learned how to put it online, never learned how to take it down. So I started getting all these phone calls from the bank, and then she was like, can you just please come in? And so I looked at the location. I'm like, actually, I could walk to your office. You're only 2 blocks. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take an hour lunch break. I'm going to come see you, but you're going to promise after I come talk to you, you're never going to call me again. Because it was to the point where we were talking almost every other day.
21 years old?
Yes, I am. Always. I was
about some audacity right here.
I'm like, I'm going to take an hour break. I'm going to leave my team, because at the time I had a team I was managing at a Jewish phone company, interestingly enough, doing technology there. And I'm going to walk down to this bank. We're going to have a conversation. You can check me off your list that you had the interview, and that's it. And I'm going to leave. Well, of course, when they got me there, they didn't let me go. So one interview goes to 2 interviews to 3 interviews, to the point where I'm meeting with the regional leader, and who happened to have his office at that site. And so we're talking, and I'm like, I'm so sorry to interrupt your flow conversation, but I'm already past an hour. I need to get back to my team. Are you guys going to make me an offer? Your assistant here is really good, Jennifer. She's actually was standing in the corner waving. I'm like, we talked like almost every week for the last few months, and I promised her I would come in so she could stop calling me. He's like, well, if I do have an offer for you. And the offer they made me was twice as much as what I was already making. I'm saying, well, I will take your offer, and I'll give you a call tomorrow. So as I'm walking back to my office, I'm like, so what am I going to do?
Yeah, that is fantastic.
So that's really how it happened, and Jennifer being super persistent. And it at the time, the fintech industry, it wasn't even being called fintech. They just knew, a lot of banks knew they had to start to transform and integrate more technology, right?
Sure.
The internet was booming.
Correct.
And this is, 2005, 2006 we're talking about. And so I came in to actually train bankers and the different managers on technology. They didn't know how to use the database, so I came in to teach them operations. And then I went from there and had 17 different roles within less than 10 years. I was the youngest officer of the bank in AVP at the point that ended up being co-chairperson for the bank for the state of New Jersey, all before the age of 24. So when I talk about the principles that I follow, every 6 months, if I wasn't getting promoted, I'm like, I'm leaving, going somewhere else. I was very impatient with myself because I knew what I could do and how my performance could be in a given setting if I had all the resources. And at that time, it was just a great place to work as a young mother, young wife. All the resources were there for me, so it was up to me to take advantage of them and take access to them.
All right, so clearly you're, what we would call a superwoman, right? Because you just mentioned mother and wife. And you're talking 21 to 24 with this mindset. Okay, so let's rewind the tape at least just a little bit. Where does the mindset come from? Because I use the word audacity. We could say confidence. I've kind of become well aware that there's some benchmarks or key indicators for high level success. One of them is actually having a little bit of a superiority complex. One of them is having a clear sense of purpose. So what would you say added to your belief that all this was possible at such a young age?
Wow, it's probably both. Just with how I was raised, I was never told I couldn't do something. It was always, how are we going to do it? Is it feasible for our family? What support or resources do you need? And that's from my mom's side of the family and my dad's side of the family.
Wow.
And so the way I was raised, even when I think about the mentors I had, it's just amazing the way that my life has been cultivated. When I look back at that, it was with very much intention with my family.
Amazing.
And also I have a lot of elders in my family, a lot of aunts and uncles who are actually like my grand aunts and great uncles that were a part of my upbringing. And very much a community. So I had a lot of folks to be accountable to, but also folks that were no nonsense, but they were very much rewarding. So I knew that if I did this, rewards were there. And I was about getting those rewards,
Wow. So they embedded firm expectations, principles, but also you were able to see the rewards of that due diligence. Yep. Man, that is life. So this is everything that majority of us as African Americans actually lack, right? So you're actually putting this in practice. But you talk about being a wife and a mother at this stage and being in the marketplace. Clearly, we're not worthy. Old Wayne's World moment. So, all right. So we're definitely tracking. I'm just in love with this. Okay, talk to me. Now we're gonna rewind a little bit because we've actually had your husband on Catch the Moment podcast. He's a dynamic industry professional in education. Talk to me about that, like even that stage of compatibility, belief, hope, and expectations. Like, and I know we'll go through, some of these valley experiences because no one knows what they don't know. Mm-hmm. But what did you guys believe in one another as y'all were charting this path as young professionals?
Man, to begin with, we just both knew that we believed and trusted in God and we loved each other. And we did have a plan as much as we could to try to put a plan in place.
Sure.
Like we know these are the things we want for our children. These are the things that we want for our life, for our marriage. And we had a plan and we were very much, and you know him, he's very much about putting things to action and paper. And if he's locked dead set on something, that's it. So when we sat down, this is what we want year 1, 3, 5, 10. But we always had a point even throughout the year, every quarter typically, where we would kind of refocus, okay, start, stop, continue, kind of those basics. What did we do good? What did we not do good? Okay, what do we need to scratch? What are some other things we can implement? And when we realized if we didn't have the resources between ourselves, then we go to the community. We go to our church family. We go to our, natural family, to friends, and see, okay, what else can we improve upon? And we were just very diligent about being the best that we could be for each other and for our kids.
Man, that's so amazing. So even when you talked about, you actually just gave a blueprint for high level functionality for the family, right? Because you talked about fathers, elders, uncles, mentors, right? There's a sense of this is possible even if we don't have it within our own resources. Meaning, like, there's a tree to branch out to. There's branches that give us extension and welfare. I hope everybody. I mean, like, this is life changing, and it doesn't, but you also had a plan. Y'all have flexibility, but then life, right?
Yes,
like,
then life, as they say. My friend said last week, "Life be lifing." I'm
life
like,
be lifing.
That is true.
All right, so in light of let's get into was any of those things frustrators, right? Like, so, because when you do have disappointments comes out of failed expectations, right? So at what point does the tension of being a mother, wife, and a high functioning professional get in there, like, really get in the way? Like,
yes.
Because I think these are real things that happen, and sometimes we don't acknowledge them. So was it 26? Was it,
Oh, it was 2000, between 2008 2012.
Gotcha.
So you think about the financial crisis that happened in 07, 08. And here I am in the midst of it in banking, watching all the walls and everything we had built out, just crumble. And I'm watching folks, who I looked up to, who are ready to retire, lose almost everything. I'm seeing things foreclose. I'm talking to clients. I'm losing this. I'm losing that. So talking about being in the belly, I was right in the midst of that. So we can talk all day about that.
Okay. Because everybody's going through that from a totally different vantage point, right? But now, young family.
Yep.
And from what I understand, you guys were actually young homeowners even at
we were young homeowners. And every year taking our kids to Disney. I mean, we were living it up. We were doing it. But then 08 happens, right? And so many things crumble. And that's where you have to be humble and you have to pivot. I'm like, all right, so what are we going to do? Number one, I want to help my family get through this to the best of my ability, right? Sure. We're going to pivot. And just because the blueprint that we put originally isn't working out, guess what? We're going to have to do a new blueprint, and that's okay. So what does that look like, right? Oof. And so then we started to put plans together about me leaving work to be able to stay at home with the kids and doing some type of business from home. And I always had a entrepreneurial bend, but I'm like, well, what can I do? I can't open a bank in my house, right? We're not going to get FDIC insured, from the basement.
Golly.
So putting a new blueprint together, and at the time, my husband was transitioning from retail to education.
Sure.
So there was a little bit of lack there as well, kind of with the difference of schedules.
Sure.
And so we had to sit down and think about, okay, what can we do? So we did something that most families probably would not do. We paid off everything. Sold our house, moved to a small townhome, not too far from here, and moved our kids to a different school where we knew that we could be more involved. I could be more involved as a parent. We knew that we couldn't do the homeschool. A couple of our friends were homeschooling, but because I knew I was going to be starting up a new business, I wouldn't give them the attention that I wanted them to have and the resources. So we found a really good charter school for them to work with, to go to, and we knew we would supplement a lot of the education in the meantime.
Sure.
The goal was always to get them to private school and to make enough money in the business to get there, but thinking about, really from 08 to 2012. And so during those 4 years' time, we did a big transition, and we had to make sure that my husband could take care of everything. And thank God, that was also for him. He had to believe God and have faith.
Sure.
Living in the Northeast, things are never cheap up here, right?
Man, we could talk about it since the soldier's real over here.
So we did that, and we're like, listen, and our friends, they're looking at us like, hey, why don't you have the big house, all these other things? Well, guess what? Cars are paid off, loans are paid off, no debt, and my husband's able to take care of everything. I'm dropping the kids off to school every day, picking them up. I'm in their life the way I want to be, and now I can focus and figure out what kind of business we're going to build. And in 2012, at the ripe old age of 28, I resigned and started my own company. And I've been self-employed ever since. So
okay.
I think it worked out.
Listen, y'all got some massive pivots for people under 30. What's going on, everybody? This is David Tyree, Super Bowl 42 champion, owner of DT3 Enterprises, where you get the truth, transparency, and transformation. Listen, are you looking to increase your brand's visibility? Are you looking to partner with an iconic platform, business owners such as myself? Look no further. We want to give you a unique opportunity for your business, for your brand to partner with Mr. Helmet Catch himself and catch your next moment. If you're excited about the opportunity, make sure you contact us at davidtyree85.com. I mean, obviously, I'm deeply in love and committed to this journey, this family. But talk to me about marriage, right? Like, you know, even up to this point. Talk to me about African American, married at what age? How old were you?
19 years old.
19 years old. This is stuff that happened in the 60s and 70s and maybe the 80s. 19 years old. So talk to me about taking the journey of marriage, but your expectations of what marriage, your understanding of what marriage is. We know the beliefs were right, and then actually having to walk that out through these vehicles, you know, like, what was your expectations of marriage, and then even some of, you know, the journey of the sobering dynamic of doing that? Go ahead. Don't worry.
Oh, man. You know, expectations of marriage. I have and still do have very high expectations.
I ain't mad at you
when it comes to marriage. And it's so funny because I remember one time my husband going through a photo album at my godmother's home in Maryland, and he was just looking through the album. And it was supposed to be a family album, but 80% of the pictures are just of me. Me in Disney, me in California, me with never repeating outfit, me at this fashion show, this event. And so how perplexed his face looked. And my aunt said, "Oh, you're trying to figure out why she's the way she is. We raised her that way on purpose." So it's their fault, really. But
hey, so that's a fair confession. It was about you.
It was about me. It was about me. It was always going to be about me. And then I was going to take good care of him. Like, that was the plan, babe. It really was. Yeah. But as you actually are married and then you realize you have to actually grow up and you have to change and you have to be considerate. Yeah. You know, because when you are such a competitive person, you can be so centered, focused, and not in a way that you're trying to be selfish or self-centered, but you end up becoming that because you're so focused on becoming a better version of yourself each and every day. Yeah. But now you actually have to, you know, work with not just a partner, this is your life partner, right? Yeah. So this is someone who you deeply care about, that you love to the ends of the earth. And then there are just some things where you're like, how did you think this was going to work out? So I've had a lot of those moments, and it's just like, all right, I've learned to say less and wait and become more patient. Yeah. But also to find just the humor, enjoying things. Like, all right, does it really matter? Is it going to be in one of those 4 quadrants where the house is burning down? Yep. If I don't have to put out a fire, I don't have to really deal with it at the moment. Right. And then we just kind of, hey, you know, let's circle back and revisit it. But I'm a very much observant person. Sure. And I'll bring something back up 2-3 weeks later. Hey, you know what? Or I'll wait. I had a rule for myself. This is really what I had a rule. I said, I will see something I don't like 10 times before I say something once. So on the 11th time, like, hey, man, what? I'm like, no, this is a habit. No, it's not I'm like, you've done this 10 times. I know, because I wait 10 times before I say something. So that literally became my rule. And it helped me to bear and to also give grace for my husband to find his way too, because we're both very young. He's just a few years older than me. Yeah. So he also, thinking about that age, you're still developing, right? Yes. So I also didn't want to be a nagging spouse either.
And we didn't know any of these things that we kind of, like, all the facts and data that we know now. We're living in the information age. You know, the male brain doesn't fully form till 25 years old. We out here just gunning. You know, these 20s, we out here just young, gunning, going for it. Exactly. And I think you guys really just have a tremendous testimony of endurance and excellence that is still being shaped even to this day. So let's get more back into entrepreneurship, right? Like, as much as you're wired for it, like, what were the biggest adjustments for you? You know, like, I'm imagining maybe patience, because there's more pillars involved when you're running your own business, even if you know what you're doing. Mm-hmm. But in light of you guys making this shift and saying, man, I'm gonna run my own business, what was the biggest pain point for you?
Wow, the biggest pain point in the marketplace is you get faced with that rejection head on, right? And so you may think you have something that people are going to like or respond or buy, but if folks ain't buying, you don't have a business. Number one rule in business is stay in business.
So then you ain't got a business.
So you realize, wait a second, what I was doing was good in a corporate setting because there were a lot of things that are already put in place. There was a lot of foundation. So now how do I change with what I'm doing? And so I really had to sit back and really understand what my strengths were, what my weaknesses were, and also what was the product or service I was offering to the market. Because if I can't articulate what it is that I'm offering, you can't sell it. So I really had to sit down and figure out in 30 seconds or less, you talk about that elevator pitch. If I meet someone that I think is a potential client, what is the one sentence I need to say to them to convert? Because that's all you have. So I became a master.
This is church right here.
Yeah,
come on, this is business church.
At understanding who my client base was, what they expected of me, how they saw me, right?
Yes.
And then also, too, if they saw me in the place that was accurate, if they saw me lower than I wanted them to see me, or maybe they had too high expectations for me, I'm like, and that's not what I'm offering. So I had to be very clear. And what I did was I hired a business coach. I'm like, you know what? I have some ideas, but I need some help with this.
Come on, sis.
I need some help with this.
Listen, I have never gone into anything new and not hired a coach. I've hired coaches that I actually believe I thought I was better than in a particular skill set, but I didn't have the experience. You know, so I'm just a big believer in that. At the end of the day, if you're going to do something new, get a coach.
Always.
Like sharpen your skill set. And there's never not a reason not to have a coach, but you might not have the resources or the depth of need for it. So I just always want to piggyback on that. So that is really, really, really tremendous. Just being able to understand what's actually needed when you're moving into a trajectory. You talked about that elevator speech. Like these are things that obviously I've learned in the last few years. We do enough life together to kind of know some framework. As you're at where you are today as the CFO of Randolph and Main Capital Group, you talk about being in a place where it's almost like full bloom. All these skill sets, modalities that you've actually accrued in the fintech space. Tell me, like what is this now looking like for you to the point where you feel full of life, vibrant, and contributing in this role?
Absolutely. So Randolph and Main Capital Group, leading fintech firm, leading firm in tokenization, a minority firm in the country.
Come on now.
Amazing.
Come
right?
on now.
So there's going to be some great announcements in the next few weeks. Folks want to get involved. It's going to be big. So I just want to drop that teaser right there.
Yeah.
But so being CFO, it really brings all my skill sets together. And it's finally a position where I can actually do all the things I've been trained to do, what I've learned to do, and also the things that I want to do in one place. And that really is to help companies thrive, to raise capital, and to launch new products and lines of business. So that's what Randolph and Main Capital Group does. So our first vertical is real estate. So we're helping really to lower that gap of access to wealth for minority families. There's a huge barrier to entry even to get into real estate, let alone grade A commercial real estate.
Correct.
And so we have a tokenization platform that allows investors to come in at small fractions of $1 for what it would normally cost. And so the first product is the Fraxion Token. And then from there, we also launched this summer the Fraxion Marketplace. So now what we've done, we're helping other businesses do the same thing.
It's exciting. And obviously, another mutual friend. And of course, I'm a big advocate and ambassador to Fraxion Tokenization. Your CEO, Nathan Burrell, just more and more exciting announcements to come there. So I could kind of see it, right? So when you consider, some of the sacrifices that have been made, personally and professionally, talk to me about, I become very big on pedigree and mindset, right? Like, what have you endured that you really feel like you're uniquely fashioned to succeed in these environments, right? Like, like everybody ain't built the same.
Yes. So I'm happy that you asked that because you know what it is change. I don't run away from change. I feel like I try my best to run to it. And I'm not worried about being scared. I'll do it scared. So I'm not worried about being embarrassed. If I have to do it and I'm crying, you're just going to see that I'm crying, and I'm going to still cry and get it done. If I'm going to do it mad, you're just going to see me mad because I'm not really good with hiding my expressions. You probably will just see it on my face, and I'm going to be mad, but I'm still going to do it. And I think that that's the courage that you have to have in life, especially in the marketplace. Yes. Like, you still have to get it done. So if you have to cry, scream, whatever you have to do, you're still going to have to do it through that process, and then your emotions will catch up with the actions that you're already doing. Ooh. So I think that in every role and every everything I've ever done, it's been that. Even, it's like taking on a new client, because my business is helping other people's business. So you have 10 clients and it's 10 different businesses. How are you helping them? Because now you're getting into the weeds of their life, their situation, and you're doing that 10 times, let alone what you have going on. Yeah. You have to do it and not worry about the emotion. And sometimes my clients will come back and say things I said to them. I'm like, man, I said that to you? I'm sorry. I didn't think, I didn't know it came out like that. Yeah, Ross said, squeaky wheels, the only ones, that are going to get greased, you got to speak up for yourself. Just all these different things. I'm like, I don't know how you heard that, but did you do what you were supposed to do? Great. Now let's go on to the next thing, right? So, being okay with just, it is what it is. Some days my hair is not going to be perfect. Some days my kids are going to be with me in the office. And it's okay. If I can't bring my kids around you and you're that much of a jerk, then we don't need to be doing business together. There we go. Right. And so that was one thing where I was able to raise my family and still move forward. Right. Wow. So my kids, they knew how to use a computer. They already had email at 5 years old. They already knew how to do a fax and how to put a memorandum together. That's because I needed support. Right. You're going to learn how to use this copy machine. Can you print this out for me? Can you change these margins? Okay. Can you put this binder together? Yeah. I need this done for the next client in 10 minutes. And such is on break. Okay, so you're up. And then you'll get some money to get some candy later, right? So then I think about what happened with the pandemic and just taking a moment where a lot of the world, pretty much the whole world was just halted. And then a friend of mine from New York, we were trying to do some projects together and nothing was moving in real estate. And, someone in her office said, there's a fellowship program. I think you should check it out. And that particular fellowship program is a nonprofit. It was a brand new company. And I'm helping them develop that program today for the past 3 years, which is great. Amazing. And so that's been something where I didn't even see myself in that space, but it made sense because not only is it real estate, but it's real estate finance. And so now it's like, wow, here it is where you're doing finance, but now in a new way. So first it was technology and then finance and technology and now real estate and finance. And so all those pivot points, it takes courage to do something new, but also it takes courage to humble yourself and say, hey, I have a lot of experience, but in this place, I know those skills can be transferable. How can I help and how can you help me? Oh, I love it. I'm highlighting courage, humility, but also emotions, being okay with being human in the midst of these pursuits. I'm just very much into that. I fear God deeply. I believe God is wondrous, mystical, signs and wonders and miracles are available, but we're also fully human, right? Mm-hmm. He wants us whole. You've gone through some of these dark alleys and probably actually around that time through the pandemic. So talk to me about some of that experience in relation to like, how were you able to keep yourself whole? You guys have 2 dynamic daughters, one of which is flourishing at Hampton, I believe, right? Yes. At Hampton, and another finishing up at Pingree. Yep. One of the best schools in the state of New Jersey. Really, like I said, paving the way in relation from goals, being unrelenting in faith. Mm-hmm. But how did you have to endure? Your husband endured a mental health crisis that was unshakable, shook us all up because I was there for it. But how were you kept together? What was your resolve? What was your resources that allowed you to be fully human and endure some of the hardest time of your life? It comes down to one word, and I think this is something that maybe we don't really appreciate until we need to appreciate it, and that's relationships. And so on every aspect, there was no way me as just one person could endure something like that on my own. So it was relationship, it was family, it was the friends, it was the community, right? Yes. It was number one, hands down, the church. Yes. All those relationships and everyone giving whatever they could, no matter how small or how big, helped make it through those 3 years. Yeah. At whatever time. And so, because there are so many different moving parts and the whole world is going through a crisis. So we have that crisis and another crisis on top of it, right? So also being cognizant of not pulling too much from other people because everyone's going through a crisis, right? Mm-hmm. Just mine might be a crisis times 2, you know, right? Or times 10. Or times 10, yeah. Or times 10. And then really, I think that's where I really just had to say, you know what? This is what I don't have. And I thought I really trusted God, but I had to learn a new way to trust, and also to trust the folks that I looked up to, right? So like you, your wife, who are close friends of ours, other folks, in the community.
Sure.
And like, I want to follow their answers because I believe that they have a clearer mind right now than I do with everything going on. And I want to follow and believe that it's going to be okay. And we're going to trust God through the process, whatever that looks like, right? Because also being someone who's such a planner and wanting to have everything mapped out, this was not a part of the plan ever.
Man, now you're talking.
Where did this come from?
Hey, man, it's nothing worse than when God crushes our calendar. It crushes our plan book, our planners. And when I say God, just the life circumstance. So I mean, like God and His sovereignty for the people who believe in that paradigm. Obviously, us. So I mean, like I said, we obviously walk through some painful moments, but you're talking about fears, like deep fears. And I tell people, trust is the highest form of worship. I stated that recently. It's the highest form of worship because you won't know when you have to trust God until the moment comes, right? It's kind of like being in the ocean with the hope, faith, and belief that somebody's going to come. I'm still swimming. I'm still paddling.
and I'll never forget that. I remember maybe right before we knew that my husband was sick, and I had asked you, I said, you said, it's like being in the boat. You said that same analogy about, trusting God, and it's like you're in the water and you just can't take over the boat. You have to let the boat go where God is going. I'm like, well, what if the boat is drowning? What do you do? Like, you don't try to, he was like, no, you just let it drown. And that is something that stuck with me. And I'm like, what? Like, how do you do that? How do you not try to save yourself, right? And I think for me, the biggest learning point in that whole process was at the end when I finally stopped trying to save myself is when God came in and swept and the boat got to shore. But it's so hard as a human to not save yourself.
There you go right there.
I think that's like the hardest thing.
No, that's truly the gem. But and now you go through this metamorphosis. You go through this realization that He is, right? That He is the I am, whatever you need Him to be. Like I said, I had to kind of like give you that space to highlight that kind of growth, transformational growth that only painful things, only suffering can kind of bring out of it. But on the brighter side of your journey and pedigree, there's just so much inherent value in you in particular. Like, what do you enjoy doing? You have a lot of skills. Like, okay, so
what's my hobby? Shopping.
No surprise.
That's everybody I think that knows me knows that.
That's true. Okay, so those are some of the more relief. I really enjoy this. But even from a skill set, like from a contribution standpoint, you have a lot of fleshed out skill deliverables, even like I said, personally and professionally. What is the one like that you actually like? You build the computers as a teenager, right? Like, I mean, not to say that that's something to do today, but like, what do you actually enjoy doing the most, even in relation when every day it goes to work?
I just think I like helping people make their dreams become a reality. So I think, I love supporting the underdog. Like, oh, they said you couldn't do it. Now let's do it. Let's show them we're going to do it and do it better, And so that's how I think I interact with pretty much my clients. They have an idea. Ooh, can we do this? Can we do that? I'm like, ooh, let's do that. Okay. How does that sound? How would that look? I'm like, ooh, I don't know. Let's see how we can get it done, because that keeps the creativity, I think, in the type of work that I do. But I also like seeing other people succeed. I was always kind of a team, player. Yeah. And I think when you ask the original question, what has changed from the way I operated before, I think now I have the opportunity really to do more collaborations with folks in business versus just being so self-focused as an independent advisor. Now I'm able to help folks do what I know has been successful for the past 2 decades.
That's excellent. I love the clarity. There's a real renewed eye for clarity and the value that you could continue to bring to the marketplace. But I mean, I'm just kind of, I get so kind of thrown from the depth, right? There's a lot of depth when you consider your daughters, right? Like, like I'm in love with the Billups. I'm in love with the Billups journey, There's a lot of high proficiencies. What is it when like you guys have been? I've known you to be have a real heart toward the minority community, right? Which is needed. Like I tell people, I said we can't create an idol out of our oppression, but we have to have the compassion that I believe God has toward our community in light of some of the journey. So when you look at what your goals, hopes, and dreams were for your daughters, you see the trajectory and what's in front of them. What are you most excited about as a parent in light of how you guys have been able to pave that pathway?
I'm most excited about their 10 times better than me and my husband.
Come on now.
So I want to see what that's going to be like. So I think I'm excited every day of their lives, you know. And just because how we were able to raise them, being very involved and intentional in their lives, in their schooling and upbringing, always being very present there for them, it built a confidence that they also feel that they can do anything and they trust God. And even when they find those weak points and they have to come face to face with their insufficiencies, they know that they can get up from there and still move on to the next part of their own journey. I
love it. Now, you clearly have the growth, that inbred growth mindset. But when it comes to, like I think we've all fumbled over our failures, missteps, whatever word we want to. What are some of the regrets that you've had in your past life journey that you've really either come to terms with, healed from, or healing from, that you're like, okay, I got it. Mm-hmm. I regret that, but at the same time, I'm not condemned by it. What were some of the things that maybe through these last few years that you flushed out and been able to come to terms with? Any area.
I'm like, there's so many.
Oh, no, listen.
And that's a part of the growth, right?
Yes.
That's part of the growth where you have to look back, and I think you just give yourself an honest assessment like, man, that could have been done differently or that could have been done better.
Sure.
And I just think that because I am such a planner and I want things to be shaped out a certain way, misunderstanding motives because I just simply didn't ask. And I think for me, being better and learning to be better and realizing the insufficiency of asking certain questions and really just giving other folks space to speak their mind and what they feel so I can correctly interpret.
Sure.
So I think that's with my daughters, because when you are so driven and so gung-ho, it's like, did you even ask them how they felt about that? Did you ask them if they want to do it? I don't care. But it's like, no, you can't be like that. I don't care. I'm telling you what you're going to do. Like, this is what works and this is what you're doing.
You are a driver.
But, yes. But I'm like, you know what? I have to learn to be a passenger and not drive from the passenger seat. And so I think that's something I'm still learning. Sure. But I've acknowledged, like, wow, I drove. Sometimes you can drive people into the ground. It can be too hard. Yeah. So learning to, just relax. You don't got to be the CEO at home. Just chill out for a little bit. So.
Man, that's so powerful because, like I said, your husband's remarkable in his own right as a creative, as an administrator. In relation to this journey, I want to kind of bring it into the journey of oneness, right? Two very respected, high-functioning, children of God. What are you most excited about as you guys are growing together, healing together? I saw some pictures out there, Martha's Vineyard looking fresh and restored, so y'all still take y'all time to, reward Miss Rashidah.
Listen.
So what are you most excited about, as you said, coming to this full stage of Butterfly? I really see you guys in that, walking in that, both of you collectively walking in the same page. What are you most excited about?
I'm most excited about us getting that time back together with us. Like our 20s, we were already married, raising kids, building businesses, and we were driving. And so we were very good friends and very good teammates, but not very good married. So now
Powerful.
that, and that's how we had success in some areas, but then very deficient in other areas.
Yes.
So now as we're rebuilding, we talk about it, we feel like we're back in year 2. And it's like, oh, this is what it felt like where we left off 20 years ago, now being back in year 2. So it's like, all right, now this is year 2 of the 3rd decade, right? And so that's what I feel that I'm most excited about, just, becoming one and walking together in a new way and just really growing, just in grace too with each other.
Yes. Man, you guys are the bomb. Y'all, these are my peoples, y'all. So obviously I got personal investment here, but anyone that's listening to this episode is going to get tremendous impartation of virtue, pedigree, excellence. and true marketplace value. You know, like you're not someone that's a novice in the sphere of fintech, to kind of like summarize it. When you think about trends in front of us, right? Like I know there's something in the space that you kind of have to really consider, because the technology space, we're talking about accelerated time. What are things that, you know, Randolph and Main Capital Group, that you guys are kind of beginning to pinpoint in light of being, number one, you've actually an industry leader in tokenization in real estate. You guys actually have wins, whereas most people in the Web3 space, if you want to call it, is kind of theory, but you guys actually have real value proposition. Yep. So, you know, like for what are some of your thoughts in relation to just where you guys see yourself, what you're identifying moving forward?
Absolutely. And I'm happy you said that. A lot of folks in the Web3 space right now is a lot of theory and ideas. But remember, I'm the person that builds computers. So I'm like, okay, these are great. What's the date? When are we going to get it done? Respectfully, we said last month, we need to, you know, we have a fiduciary responsibility to our investors, right?
Nice.
So having that kind of mindset, and with the amazing team that we're working with Demetrius Ford and Nathan Morrell, fantastic leaders, they also have that same mindset, right? Which is great, to be on a team where you're not stepping over each other, but you're really collaborating together. So the biggest thing we have on the horizon, we have the next development, the biggest development since 9/11. That's happening in the country, is going to be an exclusive deal with Randolph and Main Capital Group. So that's coming down the pike. It's going to be fantastic.
Keep your eyes open.
But with that, we're going to continue to also give back to the community and teach businesses, teach startups how to do what we've done, and also give them the access and resources to do it. Ooh. So not just be successful, but okay, let's show you how you can also have success.
Well, this is super exciting. I mean, I'm involved. Listen, so I suggest that everybody glean from the wisdom. Where can we find you specifically, just in relation to continue to glean from your wisdom and insight? And tell people where to find you so that they can be blessed.
Sure. I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn, Rashidah_Billups, RASHIDAH_ B as in boy, ILLUPS, like the company.
Come on, somebody. I mean, true daughter of the king, dynamic wife, amazing mother, and true pioneer in the marketplace. You talking about, come on, man, I ain't built the computer. I'm 44 years old. I can barely use the suckers. So I want to thank you so much for spending some time with us. You continue to get great done. You are the representation of Catch the Moment Podcast. We love you and we appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate you.
Make sure y'all lock in next week. Like, share, subscribe, comment, do all that good stuff so we can keep building this community together.